So, before I begin, I have to ask all of you guys a question. Has anyone seen the show available on Netflix, the show Heroes? No? Yeah? Okay. For those that have seen the show Heroes, you kind of get the basic premise. There are people with super abilities, being able to shoot lightning out of their hands, flying, stuff like that, all due to genetic manipulation of some sort, be it artificial or otherwise. Now, what I'm going to talk about today, which is gene therapy, is sort of like Heroes, but just not quite as science fiction-y. Gene therapy is a promising way of ending disease and chronic pain for those that suffer from it. It's on a need-to-know basis for the upcoming generation, seeing as a newer technology that's coming up. Seeing as you guys are all the new upcoming generation, it's worthwhile for you guys to hear it. So what sort of makes me credible as someone to speak about this is that I myself have researched into it prior and have gone to numerous conferences talking to people about what they feel about it and talking about the holders of the conferences, what their viewpoints are on it. I also have a relative right now who's undergoing genetic trials for pancreatic cancer. She's in stage 3 and then hopes that the gene therapy will help with reducing or even reversing the effects of the cancer. So the main points I want to talk about today are the vast medical uses of gene therapy and what it can be applied to, the current formats that exist today that you might not necessarily be aware of, and then its limitless potentials that are soon to come. So gene therapy is a rapidly evolving technology that exists in numerous ways that even occur right now, and we're just hoping that limitless potentials are to follow that as well. To start off with what it is, we have a quote from WHO, the World Health Organization. Gene therapy, in some cases, can be used for individuals with cancer or those who are born with genes that are affected with cancer, as well as lifestyle habits or chemicals that they are exposed to. So to sort of put in perspective like how gene therapy works, we have a light bulb analogy, a very famous way to describe it. You have genes in human DNA that are turned off. You have ones that are turned on. The ones that are on are usually how tall you are, what your hair color is, your eye color. Ones that are off are like, are you going to have puppies instead of normal children? Do you have a tentacle growing out your back? No. These are usually the ones that are turned off. You have these in you. I'm not saying you have a tentacle gene in you, but you have them. You have genes within you that are always off. However, smoking, drinking, sitting in the tanning bed for too long can make ones that are supposed to stay off turn on, such as ones that grow cancer and the like. So we've talked about altered factors that might affect how your genes move later on in life. But we'll talk about an upcoming medical application of gene therapy with an article known as The Boy Without Sight. Written by a researcher by the name of Ricky Lewis, we hear the story of Corey Haas, born with Leber congenital amaurosis, a disease in which, by the age of 8, Corey is expected to go blind in both eyes. He was entered into a genetic therapy trial, which allowed him to have a viral vector injected into his left eye. After 4 days of the trial concluding, he regained total sight in that eye. Sort of like the science fiction-y element sort of kicks in. 4 days later, completely healed eye. But despite this allure, there's even still gene therapy that you guys might not be aware of going on right now. We'll start off this bit with a quote from Darwin. Darwin states that but the mere existence of individual variability and of some fewer well-marked variability, though necessary, is known as the foundation of creation. So what he's trying to explain is that what is built on now can only be built upon further. An example to sort of drive this point forward is like, let's say we have a diver. He's swimming first days. For the first few times he begins to swim, he doesn't realize how far he can go. He can't go that far. He can't hold his breath for that long. But over time, he conditions himself, his body, his lung cells. They begin to adapt, absorb more oxygen, take in more, have more room for it. And he's capable of swimming farther and faster every day. We come back to the light bulb idea. Sometimes the light bulb is off, but we're hoping that gene therapy can put ones that need to be on, back on again. The ones that are on and don't need to be, turn them off. But I have to ask you guys, in the past year, have any of you fallen horribly, horribly ill? Just like bedridden, maybe you had mono or something like that? Anyone have a story about it? Anything like that? No?
Well, I think my roommate has mono right now. I guess I'll figure it out.
Soon enough, yeah. What's interesting about stuff like that, such as mono or the viruses, is that what you guys might not know about is that every time you get sick with a virus, such as strep throat, common cold, even mono, your body body at that point readapts to the virus being in its system. You can never get rid of the virus, so every time you get sick, you get less sick every time. Sort of a weird way to look at it, but it's basically your body, much like the diver swimming every day, is adapting to that new virus. So we talked about its prevalence today. Let's move on to its potential future. So we talked about what it can do to someone's eyes, or what happens when you or your roommate gets mono, and then how bad that situation can become. But what about replacing entire functioning organs from scratch? A researcher by the name of Hajar got a group of 39 people in 2013. He split them into 4 groups. He got them into a placebo group that received just water injections, a lower end group which received small factors of a viral vector for gene therapy, and then a medium and a higher level of the same factor. At the end of the trial, those who received the placebo were actually worse off than those who had not even been in the trial in the first place. For those that received the higher dose, not only were they healed from the heart defect, but they actually became better after the fact. This future suggested by Hajar suggests that fully functioning organs that once were deemed dead, such as these 39 participants who had heart failure, suggest that we could replace entire organ systems through this method. However, Hajar sort of restricts this by stating that gene therapy imposes therapeutic challenges for chronic pathological processes, such as congestive heart failure. He states this because although it's a promising field, it's still new and a lot of factors of it are still unknown. However, the prior study that we read, or talked about, Ricky Lewis's study with Corey Haas and the blind kid, says that even though these steps are shown, it's still very real and possible. A fellow researcher of the two, named Verma, states that the concept of gene therapy is disarmingly simple. You insert a healthy gene into a patient, and at the end of the trial, it should get rid of whatever that ailment is. So think of it in the future tense. You come into the doctor's office and you get a vaccination. You get it, it's a shot, or they spray you, whatever. A week later, you have the worst illness you've ever had in your life. You're bedridden, you have cold sweats, you've used up every box of Kleenex on the face of the earth, but at the end of that week, at that point, you were genetically immune to every virus created thus far. That's really frickin' cool, I would say. So we can see that it's very fast and powerful to manipulate genes. But ever since the introduction of the Human Genome Project, we can fully see the genes and how they can change and what sort of altercations can occur within them. So in conclusion, we discussed the potential medical applications of gene therapy. We talked about potential genomic manipulation that occurs even today within all of you right now. And we also talked about the limitless possibilities of this new technology. So again, just to restate and recap, gene therapy has vast medical applications on top of ongoing manipulation, and they are just the stepping stones of future possibilities with this technology. Sort of like an ending closure to the hero bit. A great fictional uncle once said, "With great power comes great responsibility." The same is true for something that can rewrite the entire human genome.